We're recording.
Okay, it's September 17th, 2024. Call to order the regular board meeting of Lowell Light and Power. Charlie, if you would do a roll call.
Chairperson Beecham,
Here.
Vice Chair Fonger,
Here.
Board Member Crawford,
Here.
and then Board Member Schrauben he emailed or texted me and let me know he's running about a half hour late for a kids event. And then, so he's currently absent, and then Board Member Cadwalder texted and notified me that she would not be able to make it tonight.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to excuse those two absences.
So, supported. Moved, supported.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the agenda. Did you have it?
I'd like to, would like to add an agenda item for, we get the actual language before sorry.
It's fine.
I'll do it a different, easier way. Make sure I don't say anything wrong. Would like to add an agenda item for the consideration of the amended and restated purchase power commitment authorization for the White Ox project. So
Okay,
it's kind of a mouthful.
do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda with the added action item.
Number C.
Supported.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes from the August 13th, 2024 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Supported.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Safety moment.
All right, gonna hand this over to Casey. He's up in the rotation and has volunteered to talk about a timely topic. So Casey, take it away, please.
Yeah, so today is flu influenza vaccination awareness day. So just a day to, I guess, be aware that the flu season is approaching us. Usually starts to ramp up in the south first and then works its way north. And currently there aren't any extremely elevated cases yet, but over the next few weeks, that's likely to increase and, like I said, eventually migrate its way north. So I guess just people that are at risk, young, elderly, underlying conditions, good to get your flu vaccination and hopefully eliminate the risk of getting the flu. Some symptoms up there, we're all very familiar with them. Generally not feeling well. Fever, nose aches, body aches is another big one. Chills. Just wanted to bring awareness to that.
Thanks.
I'd chime in also. If you're watching, you can, besides if you believe in it, besides your flu shot, you can get your COVID at the same time. You can get your RSV. Pneumococcal, I mean, you can get more than one at the time. The other is I would encourage our employees, if you're not feeling well, don't feel like you have to come into work. Take the day off, until you feel well. That's why in our benefits package, you have sick days and different things. I would just encourage those that, I know we have a dedicated group, but again, if you're feeling under the weather, save your other fellow employees from catching what you might have. And with that, I would move on to public comment.
I have some comments for the board. You want my name and address? Is that how
Nope.
you do it? All right.
We're good.
Okay, so I am here to provide an update on the Lime Shack. With apologies, of course, that it has been so long, but I tried to come earlier, but I didn't have any news. So where we're at now. A survey was done by Todd Shaw, and then the northeast property line, the building is 1.3 feet across the property line. So it's encroaching on the property to the northeast. Problem is, on no maps that any surveyor or assessor can find, is that plotted. So there's no proof of ownership to who owns that. If it's ours, which we think it is, we're prepared to just provide a lifetime easement. It's a simple, it's a foot, we don't care about it, basically. But if it's not, we need to find out whose it is. So if it's not been platted, then it belongs to the state. So then all we do is file an application to take it over. They approve it. It's a rubber stamp process, but it's state timeline. So their rubber stamps are a lot slower moving. Is that a polite way to say it? So we have Todd's title company is confirming who owns that property. And then we'll either give them an easement, or when the building is knocked down, that property line no longer matters. So if it's not plotted and it belongs to the state and they don't want to turn it over, we can apply just to say, hey, we're gonna knock a foot of a building that you don't want on your property down. Once that's done, he can start. He did on the 9th, ordered a title report, so that should be back in a week or two. As for the money, it is my opinion, only my opinion, there's 5 people on our council, that that money belongs to the ratepayers and therefore should be paid in full to Light and Power. Talked with Charlie about it. I talked to Perry a little bit about it. I just think from my end, it's the right thing to do. I don't speak for the other 4 council members, but that would be my motion, would be to make sure that that money goes back to the ratepayers. And Light and Power decides the best use for.
I will second that motion when it comes to us, because I truly believe that as well.
Just that strip of land that's.
Yeah, we're
On the
hung up
right
on
side.
18 and
Not-
yeah,
Not shown on anybody's.
No. No assessor, no state, Regis doesn't have it platted at all. And we ran into this a little bit with the Oklahoma property, because there was a street that was technically a street. that plotted
Parking
land.
lot was the street.
Yeah, it turned into a huge thing, but this seems like a much easier fix. That being said, Todd is still dedicated to the project as is, still dedicated to the purchase. So outside of getting that rubber stamp, there's no other hangups on closing, hopefully by the end of October. And at that point, cutting a check, and then Jim and I would motion to make that check payable to you guys.
So the timeline, or I guess the course of action, I know things have changed, we've ebbed, flowed, everything else. You anticipate that the council will take official action to determine where the funds are? Because I think at one point I heard that you all had instructed the city
We
manager
instructed
to
Mike
determine
to
that.
determine it with you, but ultimately, you guys can't own property, so it would take a rubber stamp council item to.
All right, so
Yeah.
logistically, it will, from a legal council review standpoint, it's going to take council action.
Yes, of just official action.
Yeah.
Mike is content in his discussions with you that it's the right thing to do. Jim and I, I'm speaking for you, are
Yeah,
content
we've had
that
a
it is
conversation.
the right thing to do, that money belongs to the people who kept that building from falling in the river for a decade. That being said, Charlie and I did agree to take 2,000 of it. Is that what we?
1,000.
1,000.
And I've already made that. I went ahead and made that
Oh,
contribution.
perfect. 1,000 of it went to the Creekside rebuilding project in the name of the council and Light and Power working together going forward.
Yes, and in that had, because the Rotary Group had a matching contribution for up to a certain dollar amount in the month of September, I went ahead and made that $1,000 contribution so that it could be doubled.
That's where I get.
So there's the 2,000, and I've submitted the paperwork for a picket on behalf of the city of Lowell and Flight Power and requested that they go in a prominent location side by side.
So my question is with and I'm just familiar because my family, my sisters, we own a cottage out at Murray Lake and there's an we own it, the property that also has an easement for the neighbors to be able to access the lake, go down to access, but they can't build on that. So Mike, when you're saying that the city would give an easement, are you saying that that easement, then they would be able to build on that? Or, I mean, I guess how does that work? Because if you're just talking about doing an easement and not selling that portion to them, what happens if they should build on that and then they decide to sell it and then you've got to,
Their plans.
if they're actually building on that, I just see that from now until eternity, that just constantly becomes an issue. If you're not selling that, if you're just doing an easement or.
Their plans, as far as they were designed, are the building would not be on that easement parcel. It would be green space and then combined with what we've agreed to on the north portion to turn into further green space, all combined into one little mini city park that's landscaped real nice. And it will match the property and the property across the street as far as landscaping goes, but the design as it's been written is not built on that easement strip. So it'd be simply, we donate it to them to turn it into green space and donate it back to us. So they just need that ownership for the purposes of demolition.
I was just curious how that would work. Okay.
Thank you. Really appreciate the update. That's great.
You good with that? Okay, I'm gonna be a hypocrite then and leave it in the middle of the meeting. That's for you.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you
Thanks.
for your cameo appearance.
Sorry I couldn't stay.
What did I say?
See you tomorrow, swinging that ham.
Yeah, what time is that, 1?
I think it's what, 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning? Well, but you can come at noon, but we have to be out by 5. We have a 6 o'clock.
So I should show up at 4:30.
Sure.
Yep.
With donuts.
8 in the morning. Anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? If not, we'll move on to action items.
All right. First action item up is something that the board should look familiar in different forms to the board, but it's our annual member power supply portfolio risk management election form. It's a mouthful. But each year, this election form essentially establishes our hedge strategies along with a few other things. Happy to answer any questions, but only thing I really wanted to highlight here is every year MPPA makes slight modifications to their risk management policy. Included in this year's risk management policy is some updates to reflect the recent renewable energy law compliance strategies that are necessary. Other than that, the board has historically adopted the stability hedge plan, which provides the longest planning horizon and also provides in general, the most stability in rates, hence the stability name. But it is staff's recommendation to approve the stability hedge plan, accept the FTR services under congestion management, and accept the renewable energy management services as prescribed as their default options in the policy. Happy to answer any additional questions. So
I'm okay with the course.
I'll say it's pretty much that's status quo, and I don't see we don't really see much upside to deviating from that course.
Okay. I would, if there's not any further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the member power supply portfolio risk election of stability hedge plan.
It's a stability hedge plan. We have to accept the FTR services and then accept the renewable energy management services.
Yeah, what he said.
So move.
So moved.
And we have support.
Supported.
Any further discussion?
Smoothly.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried.
All right, the next action item, just need to get, there's a lot of contract language in your packet.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, so included in your packet are two contracts that need to be updated. Essentially, this is associated with the repowering of Belle River. I can get into more details, but again, this is something we've talked about the last few months. Try to give the board a heads up. This is the actual mechanics, and the mechanics, I don't want to say are cumbersome, but there are some uniquenesses to the mechanics. There are two separate agreements. One is the power sales contract, and the other is a project support contract. They operate together, but it's ultimately because of certain legal requirements at the state that enable MPPA to take on debt to power for these projects. So contractually, they accomplish different things, and they're both tied to state legislation. So if you want more details, happy to get into it, but it really is just the necessary mechanics to make it work. Two major accomplishments with these updates. First being, I guess it's really twofold. It's just updating the language. The language updates include adding language that reflects the repowering to natural gas. The other language updates are very much just tied to updating language issues, tense issues, things that used to say were going to happen in the future, but now have happened in the past. And then also the elimination of things that are just not relevant anymore. This agreement was signed pre-MISO, pre-power pool. So the wholesale markets and the structures with which we purchase our power are just very different. And then really the other accomplishments, there were some participating members of the project that had a desire to bring some cash to the table to use cash financing for their portion of the repowering. It was not an attractive option for a variety of reasons for us. I'm happy to get into those, but this one, I will ask for the motion to be read as it's written, which is a mouthful, but it accomplishes a lot of the mechanics. One of the challenges with this is the contracts you see are pretty robust and lengthy, and these contracts have to be approved in substantially the same form by all participating members of the project, or they are not effective. So
Say that again. So my question I was going to ask later, because we own 1.24. If we didn't vote for this, would we be, because we have 1.24 ownership and everybody else votes for it? I mean, we're kind of locked into it, right?
I'm not exactly sure what would happen. Now, if it's not from a financing perspective, I can answer half the question. From our ownership stake, we still have that ownership stake. So I'd be honest, I'm not sure what the ramifications would be if we didn't.
I mean, I'm thinking majority rules. I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I would have to follow up definitively on that. Now, as far as if all members don't approve the updates that allow the financing, it defaults back to debt financing only, which ultimately wouldn't have any impact on us because we've provided notice to MPPA that we do not intend to cash finance our obligations under the repowering. But I'm not sure.
Okay, I was just one of those crazy questions.
But included in your board packet is the recommendation to authorize and direct the general manager and the board chairperson to execute the Belle River power sales contract and Belle River project support contract in substantially the form presented in the board packet, and further authorize and direct the general manager and board chairperson to execute any other necessary documents to enable Lowell Light and Power to enter into the Belle River power sales contract and Belle River project support contract. And I've asked for it, the motion to be crafted that way because there is a chance that we've already seen it as this goes through approval processes everywhere. There's, oh, this reference is no longer valid. I mean, this is a pretty robust set of contracts that have been thoroughly vetted, but there's always little things where there's a tense or a tense issue or a reference that got changed and didn't, reference to this section that didn't ultimately stay the same. So that's a request or that's the staff's recommendation at this point.
So we'll be 1.24% of 35 million debt issuance. Or is that like
Our debt issue is our debt piece is about $450,000, and because not all
7 years?
over 7 years, yes. And the selection of the debt was ultimately voted on by the board as based on net present value calculations in the 7-year tenor. And really the debt didn't ultimately materialize into 35 million because some members have elected to bring some cash. The debt's ultimately going to land at about 28 million.
But our portion
stays about $450,000, and that's about half of our overall obligation. It's about a $70 million total repowering for MPPA. About half of that's coming through debt. So there will be a portion that is collected through normal capital calls over the next couple of years, and then a portion that will be funded through a debt issuance from MPPA. Other thing important to note, this is not our debt. We have a commitment to repay the debt, but this is not debt that sits on our book. It does not impact our ability to leverage future debt. It's not factored. I guess it does have an impact on our ability to leverage future. It does not count as our debt. So when it comes to debt obligations,
when it's on there, the audit will put it on there.
no, it is not. It is not our debt. We pay our obligation through our normal power supply. Our normal monthly bills. The debt is issued by MPPA, and then we have a part of the agreement is that we will cover our portion of MPPA's debt. So it's a little bit of a nuance, but from an auditing standpoint, from a financial obligation, we have obligations, but they are not captured in debt issues. So when you look at debt coverage ratios, things like that, it's not factored in. Correct me if.
That's correct.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's a.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's
Sorry. Yes, it's not a yes.
It'll be on there, so it'll
mention.
It'll be reflected the same
Yeah,
place
yeah.
like affect debt.
it won't be on like long term. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get you.
Sorry, it won't reflect in the balance sheet.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's what I said. But yes, it is in.
No, I should have phrased it.
It is mentioned in the debt, and there's a joint venture. It's under the joint venture section. I think it's where all our power supply stuff is. We call it debt and debt schedules there.
One last thing, so, or for me. So staff, when we're talking about staff, that's our staff. And so MPPA is recommending this also. I mean, it says, it talks about MPPA, but when I'm looking at information stuff, it doesn't actually say.
Yes, this has all been approved at the MPPA Board of Commissioners level, and it was reviewed and the exhaustive legal review was conducted by MPPA. So yes, it's MPPA's recommendation to approve this to the BOC, and then ultimately MPPA makes recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. The individual commissioners carry those recommendations to the local governing body. So I wouldn't necessarily say MPPA is recommending all the way down to the individual board level, but through the sequence, it's ultimately supported by MPPA.
Okay. Any further questions?
I prefer that Daniel make the motion.
Because
Just gotta read
he's
it.
less prone to tongue tying than I am.
Just gotta take out, it's the
I'm
staff's
just gonna read.
recommendation.
I'm gonna read exactly that.
Do you need me to make it bigger for you?
No. When is this supposed to fire up? Like, when is it supposed to be?
So the first unit will be repowered. Casey, you have next year is repowering unit 1. The following year is repowering unit 2.
They start next year. I think the first one will be commissioned in 26.
Early 26.
And when they commission the first one, 26, that same year, they'll take unit 2 down and start that one.
Oh,
It
gotcha.
takes a year, so they're staggered.
Gotcha.
So 26, 27 will be unit 1, being
Unit
completed
two.
in 27 will be 2.
Okay, yeah, just curious. I motion to authorize and direct the general manager and board chairperson to execute Belle River Power Sales Contract and Belle River Project Support Contract in substantially the form presented in the board packet, and further authorize and direct the general manager and board chairperson to execute any other necessary documents to enable Lowell Power to enter into the Belle River Power Sales Contract and Belle River Project Support Contract.
Supported. Okay, we have motion and support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried.
Good. And then just from a mechanic standpoint, once the board approves the minutes next month from this meeting, I'll send those minutes to MPPA. MPPA will send signable contracts to us, and I have it. I guess I should have said I requested authorization for both Perry and I. I don't believe it. I have to double check. It doesn't take a counter signature, or it doesn't take a dual signature on our end. But I wanted to make sure I had that flexibility. We had the flexibility to make sure we can ultimately carry this thing across the finish line ahead of their necessary timelines, because this is all part of a much bigger timeline when it comes to debt issuance and kind of backing down from when the projects start, or backing into when this needs to be approved based on the start of the project, financing timelines, all that. So we will wrap this up next month once we have final minute approval from the meeting. All right. So the last action item is the added action item, and it's an amended and restated purchase power commitment authorization for White Ox. Apologize for the tight timeline. These are things that I like to get out in front of you before I request a vote. And if the board is not comfortable voting tonight, I wanted to still make sure that it got in front of you. And it from a timing standpoint, we can take action in October, but MPPA needs these agreements signed and returned by the end of October. So in case there was any hiccup, I wanted to go ahead and make sure this got in front of you. If the board is inclined to take action today, I think I would be comfortable with that, and don't see it as a risky action, but that's not my purview, and I will leave that up to the board. But before you being presented today, and Megan, if you would you zoom out and scroll down to the actual, wanted to just show this. This is something that the board has seen. This is the form that our authorization to MPPA takes for, or this is how we provide authorization to MPPA. So to kind of run down what's happened with the White Ox project, as a reminder, back in early 2023, MPPA with Lowell participating executed a capacity purchase and sale agreement with a battery energy storage system developer. The agreement was only for capacity. It did not, and typically when you look at a purchase power agreement, there's 3 products to consider. There's the capacity, there's the energy, and then there's the ancillary services. Ancillary services are kind of the everything else bucket. We just contracted for the capacity piece and MPPA's 25 megawatts was only a portion of the overall project. So originally the developer was not concerned with marketing the remaining products on our 25 megawatt piece. Through the project development, it became apparent that that was going to cause challenges. The agreement was contingent upon two things. One was the successful development of the project, and the second was ongoing performance after commissioning it. And they ran into some pretty significant challenges with competing interests. What may be advantageous for the off-taker of the energy may be counterproductive to the off-taking entity for capacity. If you're leveraging an energy arbitrage model, you're charging and discharging. If you discharge and those batteries are not available during a reliability event, it could potentially have an impact on our capacity. So the developer approached MPPA and said, we need to overcome these challenges, or it could ultimately result in significant delays or canceling of the project. So ultimately what they found out is they can't represent two different entities in the market with our portion of it. The solution, I think, is a big win for Lowell Light and Power and MPPA. But the proposed solution is to essentially terminate the existing agreement for the battery energy storage system capacity and replace it with what's called a financially firm ZRC replacement confirmation. And essentially what that is this developer will go out at their risk and secure an equal quantity of ZRCs, zonal resource credits, which is essentially capacity, and they will provide those replacement ZRCs at the same price, term, pretty much mirroring the agreement. Only difference is that capacity will be essentially resource agnostic. We won't have a say in what resource ultimately is behind that zonal resource credit, which, as I don't see it as a downside. If it were an energy, and if it were about providing energy, it would have a bigger impact on our carbon footprint, on our renewable status, different things. But ultimately, this is just a capacity transaction, and that's the only purpose for us. The replacement of a financially firm agreement is to MPPA's benefit and ultimately to our benefit, because you take out those development contingencies and you take out the performance, the ability, changes in capacity accreditation rules, or conflicts between, or just really risking capacity accreditation loss. We don't have those same risks associated with the replacement agreement. So happy to answer any more questions, but it's pretty much we ultimately walk away with the same thing, but have some additional securities. We just don't have it directly linked to a battery energy storage system. So happy to answer any questions, and if the board is so inclined, at this meeting, if not at the next meeting, it's staff's recommendation to authorize and direct general manager to execute the amended and restated purchase power commitment authorization to terminate the CPA for White Ox battery energy storage system and replace it with a replacement ZRC confirmation. And that's no longer on.
Okay, so again, this is a lot to process, kind of all in the moment. So I definitely want to pause, and if there are any questions, I'd like to touch on those. But again, apologize for the short notice. Our meeting just kind of fell at an odd time this month, and wanted to at least introduce this to the board. Other thing that I'll mention is this agreement is a significant portion of our replacement capacity for Campbell. It's why in years 1 through 3, it's at an elevated offtake level for us, and then years 4 through 10, it's reduced to a much smaller offtake percentage for Lowell.
Okay, does that need to be reiterated word for word?
No,
or
no, you can just, you can authorize me to execute the amended.
Authorizing direct general manager to execute.
The amended, and you can stop at the. you
Just
can-
read the whole
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move to authorize and direct the general manager to execute the amended and restated purchase power commitment authorization to terminate the CPA for White Ox BESS and replace it with a replacement ZRC confirmation.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried.
And that may be a new acronym for everybody too. I thought
ZRC.
ZRC, Zonal Resource Credit, BESS, is a battery energy storage system. So that was a new acronym for me as we got into these. I think it will be a more common acronym as we move forward, and there's a major push for batteries. Yes. All right, that's action items. We're rolling along. Dive into performance data, starting with overall sales. Again, this is month 2, so to be expected, we're trending ahead of last year in overall sales, which is pretty much just a continuation of last year as we really started to grow that delta between last year and the previous 4, as we had large industrial expansion. So to be expected. Moving on to industrial sales, you see with everything else stripped out, you can see that impact a little more clearly. Commercial sales continue to kind of be a little more all over the place, but at the top end of things. And again, this is to be expected with one of the grow operations qualifying as under a commercial rate. So to be expected. Residential, it's right in the mix. We talked about a residential load quite a bit, but to be expected, it was hot in July and August. So we trended ahead of the previous year. But as you can see, you get a little further back, you start 2021, July was.
We have more energy efficient
I mean,
air
so
conditioners out there.
in fiscal year 21 was a COVID year. That's July of 2020. So there was abnormal residential load patterns during that month or that year. But again, we're hovering somewhere about the middle of the pack for the last 5 years, and we don't anticipate much difference there. Overall cost per kilowatt hour, don't have anything necessarily to report there. We'll pause at cash levels just a little bit. Again, you can see that our cash levels are staying fairly healthy, and we're sitting above that 120-day mark, slightly under that 140-day mark, but overall cash levels are maintaining. What you will notice this month is an increase in the Huntington investments. That was just a reflection of we reallocated some funds out of our standard kind of working bank account and moved them over into some investments to continue to take advantage of an interest rate environment that will start slipping tomorrow, most likely. Actually, it already has. It's already moved down quite a bit, but we're just looking at maximizing that interest rate environment right now. Other than that, I'll skip all the way down to the PCA revenue. As I mentioned last month, we anticipated seeing some upward pressure on this, and we will continue to see upward pressure on this. In my manager's report, I bring attention to the energy services project working capital requirement that we talked about a little bit the last couple months. It's a cash hit. It's ultimately money that MPPA holds as working capital for the energy services project, but that number has crept up quite a bit this month, and we're working that balance into the PCA. It was something that we saw as necessary, something necessary to modify the calculation so it's incorporated, so we don't continue to have working capital slowly erode cash, and we can collect that ultimately from the customers that are causing us to incur that additional expense. But we expect this trend to continue as summer months continue to roll on, and the elevated transmission prices, elevated power prices through the summer. We expect this to continue through the summer for sure.
You make a note that Andrew is present at 6:40. After we got done with all the motions and everything.
Typographs, don't worry.
Awesome. All right, and with that, that's performance data. Hand it over to Zach to run through the monthly outage report.
Excuse me. It was kind of a busy month for August. 8/15 or 8/11, sorry. We had a dead tree limb fall on a secondary. Track right, 8/15, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah, 8/15. A tree laid on line. Got that off there. 8/19. 28th Street, we had a squirrel. Forest Road, we had a secondary get together mid-span. It was crossing the road, it was obviously burned up there, and we had to replace it probably from a squirrel running across it, and over time it just weakens and got together with the neutrals. And then we had the storm blow through on 8/27. We had Grand River off, that was from the tree limb. Blew over during the storm and got into it. And then we had a tree limb on West Street fall down and take line out, and that was not a tree limb we would have cut normally anyway. And then Elizabeth and Lincoln Lake, there was a tree limb that came down that was not one we would have really tree trimmed much on either. And that broke a pole, so longer duration on that one.
Yeah, and that, we were all actually sitting around together, and if you remember, this storm kind of fired up out of nowhere, and it got pretty ugly pretty quick. I think consumers ended up with about 110,000-120,000 out, and a couple days worth of restoration. So we knew this one when we were upstairs in the old boardroom, and we're viewing some applications and resumes, and it fired up, and we think we all pretty much said we're not getting out of this one unscathed. It's just too much wind, too much stuff blowing around, too many leaves on the trees that carry things, and ultimately we fared really well. I think the guys were back. That was right at the end of the day. I think it ultimately was about 4 or 5 hours worth of restoration work, and that was largely driven by the pole that needed to be replaced. So I want to just commend Zach and his crews for getting the lights turned back on and doing a great job doing it with that. So everybody was ready to roll.
So I mean, yes, great job. So, and this would probably come up in next month's thing. So on one of the Pink Arrow days or whatever, I think it was Friday. So Cliff, we had some outages on Main Street.
Yeah, there's a tree fell behind King Million's truck barn over there.
Yep.
And took a line. It didn't take a line down, it got all 3 lines together, blew all 3 fuses, and then we had to come in. And that was also a tree that we would not have cut.
Right.
It was,
You were able to track that one down.
yeah, we had to
Go back.
walk through the jungle and get to it.
Right. So, no, and I was just, because I was out there and Cliff was volunteering as a golf cart driver and said, oh yeah, we lost our power and everything. I called in and this and that. And I was, again, great that they call in, but also explaining that, most outages get reported from our meters to our guys, so they'd be right on it, so. You know, kudos to you guys and, you know, and when you're saying it's not something that we would have normally trimmed, I'm just saying, you don't have to explain yourself to me, to us. I mean, we know that you guys do a great job and do the things that you need to do. And, you know, sometimes, you know, people say, oh, if it was underground, it was that. Well, you know, when it's above and something happens like that, you guys can know pretty much a general vicinity where the problem is, and you get right there, and it's visually, it's an easy see, you know, and you guys take care of it. So kudos to the line staff and kudos to all employees at Lowell Light and Power.
Awesome. All right, we'll roll on to the income statement.
Did that new pole get a squirrel guard?
Yeah, it did. And actually, if I can add something to that, during that outage, so we have 7,200 running down the street that was stopped a pole before there. We did some improvements to the line while it was down, while they were setting the pole. We had finished up with the other two jobs. So we came back out with new wire to upgrade it to the same wire, tree wire that's over there on Washington, Monroe now. And it's already pre-built to go right to 7,200 and reconstructed the next pole so that we can actually remove probably 5 or 6 spans, which is adding 2 from that, and it'll be converted over to 7,200 at the same time during outage too. So that was another big win for everybody as well.
So
Efficiency.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by tree wire?
So it's Hendrix wire, so it has a coating around it, and trees can lay on it for a duration before they actually.
Or when if they touch, they don't post out. And
When
So
you,
a tree won't arc it.
Yeah.
if you take a detour on your way home and walk up Monroe, the single phase line that we built up Monroe going north from North Street, that's all tree wire. You'll notice it's that the primary wire on top is a bigger coated wire, and it just allows for closer margins from a tree standpoint.
tell me if I'm wrong, but most of the time, that's the Hendrix wires where you see them,
Diamond.
that diamond. And so they're relatively close together in a big storm where they could actually touch each other. And if it wasn't that coated line, then you'd blow fuses and stuff.
So is that the kind where birds' wingtips wouldn't arc it either?
Do what?
Birds' wingtips wouldn't be a problem with that because of the same coating?
Yep, same thing, yeah.
So in the past, you guys have said, oh, hawks have like flown between wires and
Yeah.
connected them with their wings, but.
No, most birds probably can't fit through the spacing.
Yeah, no, these are.
Well,
Okay, cool, thank you.
yep.
Thanks, Zach. So income statement, again, another healthy month. It's early in the year, is what I'll say. We don't expect generation to ultimately finish 50% under budget. Some of that is lumpier type of expenses that ultimately through the budget process are spread out. Part of that, though, is also Casey's time is being spread elsewhere. But still early on in the year, power supply is running pretty on par. Again, as we mentioned earlier during the budget process, we've been pretty conservative with sales revenue just because so much of our sales revenue projections have not hit. They've not followed the trends that we would expect in a growing system. So I took a conservative approach to sales revenue, but we continue to trend slightly ahead there. And overall expenses continue to trend slightly under budget. Ultimately we're 2 months in and starting the year in a healthy position. So slightly ahead of last year at this point. So happy to answer any questions on the income statement, but again, it's still pretty early in the year. All right. Capital projects, a lot of the same story as last month. If you look at current month spend, a lot of it is driven by IT costs. We have purchased all of the equipment for our network upgrades this year. All those expenses flow through us, and we ultimately invoice the city for their portion of them. So you're seeing some movement there. Continue to see some movement on voltage conversion projects, as was reported last month. I believe it was last month. I'm losing track of time, but Washington Street all the way up to up north of the cemetery has been officially converted to the 7200 12470 voltage. Pushed it all the way up north of the cemetery so that the new 9 to 11 home development that's going there on the river will be on the new voltage. So there's no future voltage conversion for those houses. But that's been the focus there. And other than that, just continue to, crews have been working on Harvest Meadows, Stony Bluff, working on that. And some of those dollars hit that system expansion budget. But again, we're still pretty early in the year at this point. 2 months in being reported here. So everything that is in motion, it needs to be in motion, is in motion at this point.
I saw him trimming a lot of trees the other day. Yesterday, or was that today?
Yesterday and today.
For a lot of right of way work that's been lined up right now.
Yeah, a lot of tree trimming.
A lot of tree trimming these days. Trees grow faster than people realize, that's for sure. So that's capital projects. Any questions on capital projects? This next one, we're going to tag team a little bit. I don't know if anybody noticed. If you didn't, walk through that door, please, when you leave, and you'll see a truck that showed up about 1.5 years early. The Altec 55-foot bucket truck. Want to pause and commend Ryan a little bit. He's not here, and he's not taking credit for it anyways, but Ryan's strategy for purchasing that truck really put us in a great spot to get it ahead of time. By purchasing a standard truck. No bells, no whistles, just the factory. This is the way it's designed. When you place an order for a truck, they assign you to a manufacturing slot. This slot 12 month, whatever, that's our spot. The truck that comes off the line at that production slot is ours. They don't just keep a list and hand them out to people as they go down the list. So that truck order was canceled by somebody, is all we can assume. I don't know if you ever heard any actual details on how we got it, but we assumed the truck became available because when we purchased our truck, there were a lot of utilities that were putting in large orders just because lead times had gone crazy. And Ryan had said, hey, there's a good chance this shows up early. Long story short, he identified this truck as an available unit. I worked with Perry to understand exactly what we needed from a board approval standpoint. Altec provided notification that truck would satisfy the already approved PO. So it didn't require a separate board approval. So we pulled the trigger.
And we saved.
We were budgeting for, if you'll remember, it was no price certainty in the truck. It was originally $230,000 truck. We were estimating about 5 to 7% a year. I don't remember exactly what we put in the equipment replacement fund, but we were planning on a 5 to 10% price escalator on an annual basis. So the number we had in the equipment replacement fund was $275,000. We were thinking, about $40,000, $45,000 in price increases from the time we ordered it. This truck came in at $223,810, or significantly under what we were planning. We've got $50,000 additional, and it came in under the original price that we were quoted. A win all around. With that, I'll turn it over to Zach. I'll handle
And I don't know what Zach's gonna do, but we talked, who does it. I'd like at some point explain what we're gonna do with our fleet, what ones, are gonna go and everything else, and that includes we have a forestry truck on order. And also explain the time frame that it'll take for that to go, even though it's sitting there, there's a time frame for it to go into service.
Hey, you queued up Zach.
And with that, there you go.
So, October 10th, the Altec guy is gonna come out and do an in-service day on the truck. Basically go through, make sure everything's working, no problems with the truck, show us how everything works on the truck. And then from there, we get the truck to make our customizations to it that we need, because like you said, it's a bare bones truck. So there's a bunch of, you gotta add places for tools to go, and your customize the truck, custom lights the way we want, custom everything the way we want. And then once that's done, it'll finally be in. So probably end of October-ish when that truck will actually be out on the road first.
So, and then beyond that, it's just gonna be equipment rotation. The green machine, that's what we'll call it, right?
The green weenie.
The green weenie, the green screen will go to auction. What is currently our main bucket truck will go to a reserve bucket truck, which that should function as a really good reserve bucket truck. We put $25,000 into it last year roughly. Maybe more. Megan probably knows better cringes when we get those bills. It's an expense. We put some money into it. Do we put new tires on that last year? I don't remember what we put new tires on.
I don't think just the digger. Truck.
Just the digger was new. I try to keep track of all of it, but there's a lot of older trucks. But our current primary bucket truck will go to a backup bucket truck. We'll auction off the green bucket truck when the forestry truck comes in. We don't have a need for 2 forestry trucks, so our current forestry truck will get auctioned off. And the next piece of equipment that will need to be replaced is the digger. That's the biggest piece of equipment we have. It'd be the most expensive piece of equipment we have. And what our plan will be is to take the $50,000 we've saved here, take the money from the green machine auction, take the money from the forestry truck auction, dump them into the equipment replacement fund, and try and get this digger replaced here in the next few years.
And I want, and this is the knowledge from talking to Charlie and if you look at it, the digger truck really looks great and everything, but it is, and it runs fine, but it is 20 years old. And even, we were talking about it, companies build vehicles to last X amount, because if you can make vehicles last for a long, long time, but there goes the economy when you're not going out and purchasing things. So there's a lifespan of the vehicles. And so you might go out and look and say, man, that looks good and it's running good and everything. But again, our discussion is that needs to be on the schedule for replacement because it is 20 years old.
And it still holds some value because it's in good shape.
So Zach could tell you more about that.
Yeah, I would say it holds probably quite a bit of value. It's a older truck, so it surpasses a lot of the safety weight stuff and outrigger stuff, and it's a simpler truck to run. It's still hydraulic over hydraulic, and it's not electric over hydraulic, which you can't feather as much. It's an extremely nice truck, but it's in the next few years, it's going to start costing us a lot of money.
It's a matter of it will have value to somebody next.
Yeah.
But part of that value is getting it at a good price and being able to put the money into it, where for us, it's just continuing to throw money at it. And it's the only digger we have, and it has to be reliable. So
We got a lot of diggers.
I'll just say,
Yeah.
but it takes a lot of people to move a 10,000-pound transformer. It's the problem. No, it's a really, I was talking with Mark today, and kind of reiterates the appreciation for replacing equipment. When Mark first started here, we just purchased the current main bucket truck. Mark's pretty close to retiring. That one truck will basically span his, actually, we will have it. It will span his entire career. That doesn't happen very often, and it should not be a standard practice. So really, he kind of was reiterating that it is pretty awesome that to see some of the equipment be replaced. And maybe we'll convince him to stick around a couple more years so he can use some of the new equipment. We get to use new equipment as he's coming in, as he's going. But I think it's important to note that how much appreciation there is coming from the crews to have the equipment that we have, and it ultimately starts with the board, the support from the board in making these large purchases, because it's not every day we write a check for $223,000. Much appreciation to the board for that support.
When you said the digger's the most expensive thing we have, like how much, just, is it vastly more than the bucket truck, or just in a similar order of magnitude?
I don't have a real clear, there's a lot of strategies you can go in ordering a truck. I recently spoke with another utility that ordered 2 bucket trucks, similar in function to that. It's been $500,000 a piece. So part of that's customization, part of that's a battery hybrid boom. So I don't have a good sense. I'm hoping that it's somewhere in the $400,000 range, but I don't know if you have any other insight. I mean,
It has,
Been a while since I looked at prices too.
yeah,
it doesn't have a bucket on it, but it has more, still has a boom. It still,
Yeah.
then it has a auger, and then it has a winch line, and it has, I would say that has more features than what a regular bucket truck has.
yeah, the digger's
I'm just
basically
curious, like, when you said it's the most expensive of this,
Bucket for the digger and work out the bucket on the digger truck too. And that's an option. Yeah.
never heard a lineman happy to do that, but but I've seen it done before. So I would hesitate to give a definitive anticipation. Last time I was involved in purchasing a digger was pre-COVID.
no, that's fine. I was just, when you said most expensive, I was just trying to think, do you mean like 250, or do you mean like 600?
I'm thinking somewhere in
like it's gonna be significantly more than the bucket truck.
Yeah.
But not like a
not
$1 million vehicle.
or triple, not triple, I would say. So but we'll see. Yet to be determined. It's one of those things that we honestly are shifting our internal timelines a little bit, because we were planning on receiving both trucks still over a year out. And I think originally that truck was scheduled for second or third quarter next year. And I think we're planning on it being pushed out a little bit further. So we're pretty close to a year early on that truck, which is, we'll adjust all of our timelines. And my guess is we need to look at some modeling to see when kind of those funds will be there. But yeah, I would anticipate here in the next year or two putting that order in for a replacement, and then we'll have definitive answers.
Yeah.
I'm thinking somewhere in that. In my head, I've got $500,000.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, figuring out the calendar.
Yeah. I was like, calendar year, fiscal year. Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
I think, and I lose track of timelines. With that, that's the Altec bucket truck update. We hand it over to Zach for the distribution report.
I stand on my report.
I have a question regarding the broken street light conduit. Did we turn around and bill CNL or the city to repair that damage since they caused it?
I'm still working with the city manager to determine exactly how those mechanics are going to be. We had about a $2,500 bill to an outside service that the city manager indicated that they would just pay and then settle with the construction company. But I need to revisit with Mike, how we're gonna handle our expenses. But something that's important to remember there is that's not our assets.
Correct.
Those are the city assets and we provide that service. So we'll continue to work together. The biggest thing was making sure that third party invoice was satisfied on time. And I was provided assurances that it would be taken care of. So
To make sure that's what.
but yes, we have spoken with Rich and with Mike over at the city, and everybody's in agreement that that's not ours or the city's cost to bear. Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Zach?
For the trees that moved, was that, you guys just noticing them as you were out and about?
Do what?
The trees that got moved in the item C there, but you mentioned.
Yeah, that's
that
care out there.
We're still in the process of getting those.
Oh, okay.
They have not moved them yet.
It's something
But
that
those are just things you notice as you're out and about.
Yes.
That you see that, hey, someone just planted a tree. We should
Yeah.
look out.
Anytime a new tree is planted, we pretty much know about it.
Yeah, and it's routinely a challenge that they deal with. There was recently one that I drove by, a new installation. They lined our transformer with arborvitaes. And it's like, we can't, yeah, it looks great. It doesn't work that way. So it's a constant battle. And I thank them for staying on top of it because it's a whole lot easier to ask somebody to move it when you can move it versus going and telling them we're going to cut it down. Because there's times that township city ordinances can require certain trees and screening, and we need to work with those customers to make sure that they can comply. So from a policy standpoint, there's some things that we can do to help mitigate that. But the biggest thing is getting out ahead of the problems and having them dealt with now, which is also the most challenging time because you're counting on somebody being able to visualize a tree 5-10 years down the way. But I'll say it's something that we've proactively worked with the Arbor Board, worked with the city's new tree ordinance, and really tried to take a very proactive approach to making sure we're not leaving problems for subsequent generations.
So on that, and I haven't noticed or anything, I've noticed that it really looks nice where is it Harvest Meadows, the new entranceway that goes next to the observation deck and everything, and they planted some trees. But I know that Low Light and Power at one time, we mowed all that down and everything.
Yeah.
So they didn't plant any inappropriate trees under the lines.
Not that I noticed off.
I mean, I haven't noticed it. I was just,
Think that they are.
Because they're on the back,
Far enough.
I would say, they're on the backside of the trail.
I'd have to look at it again, give you a definite answer, but I don't think they are.
Okay. I might have been a drive-through.
I mean, it really looks,
I think it's in good shape.
it really looks, I mean, what the development did there, and I sit on the Trails Committee, it really, in my opinion, enhanced that observation. And I'm thinking that the observation, we might want to turn the bench around because you're now gonna be just looking into a side of a house, but
That's funny. All right, we'll roll on to Casey. Anything to add to yours?
No, I'll stand on my report.
Easy enough.
No, just every time you guys say that, I just picture someone standing on a little notebook.
Both feet.
We can do that. I would not, can you reconnect? Barely me, just for the end of this. And I'm gonna drag it a little bit because Megan's next on the agenda and she's multitasking, so.
Is that the line crew trying to convince someone to move a tree?
That's our new hire. Make sure they fit in.
Sure.
All right, so with that, we will roll on and I will ask Megan to touch base on Public Power Week and an exciting new event we have here.
Yeah, so very excited to share with you Power Fest, a celebration of public power. we and, well, office staff really, we were brainstorming for, Public Power Week this year. We collectively decided to, do something a little different. In the past, we would have, giveaways, in the office, we have
Thursday.
raffles for things that you still have to come into the office to, to put your name in. And we felt like maybe we could do something a little different this year. So we are just having a fun night, here at the Workhouse. So, lots of stuff going on, and you can read it all right there. A lot of fun for the whole family. Kids, we're having a lot of kid activities. Daniel and Steve will be there, so really excited about that. Yeah, the guys will be doing pole climbing. And Casey, you are doing.
Will be test cranking to the generator.
Yep, those kind of demos that you can see and.
No,
We obviously hope y'all can make it. We have little postcards that we are we're handing out to businesses to be able to give out, and we are sending them home with every kid at Bushnell and
Cherry
Great.
Creek, I believe.
yep. So hoping that we'll get our customers as well as the surrounding area. We're trying to market it to not just our customers, but it'll be things that other people will enjoy as well. The giveaways are pretty good. We have some gold bucks. We have a nice little camp chair and blanket. So yeah, stuff that are not just for our customers. So really excited about it. We're hoping you can make it. We're also hoping you can get other people to come. So that is your task that we are doing. So
Yes, and I have a stack of postcards. If anybody would like to take a stack to hand out, please do.
Facebook event,
Yes.
so you can look at that.
Sure, I'll take one of those so I can read it at the next council meeting. Please.
Here, I will hand out.
Thank you.
Here, I'll hand out a few. If anybody wants any more,
so
please.
when you're saying businesses and everything.
What's that?
So,
Yeah, I'll.
So our plan, and I don't, I think Lisa's planning on going to the businesses downtown, so there.
because I would, if there's a way to make these a tabletop thing, again, I know Kaiser's Kitchen would, and I would think a lot of the other restaurants would actually put them on their tables so that while people are in there eating, they get this and they get to look at it and go, oh. So, and again, I'm
thinking if we can find those little stands that you've got the little key ring thing on top and just stick right on top.
And that's, again, and I can't speak for the other restaurants, but Kaiser's, the owners are very close friends of mine, and I know that because we've done that before with Pink Arrow, for Pink Arrow events and everything. I actually went to the restaurants and asked them, can we had them made like tabletop things and put them on their tables, and it's just a great way to, and I'm sure Greg Canfield would also do that. So again, I don't know how many you have, but
We have a lot.
but I'm just saying that I think that's a way to people, besides having it in businesses' doors, but those restaurants, you're sitting down eating and you're ordering and going, oh, what's this? And they have an opportunity to read that. And
That's great. You got that written down, Craig?
No, I do not, but I can. Huh?
You're gonna have the,
My notes don't make sense the next day most of
you're
the
gonna have
time.
Oktoberfest the weekend before. aren't you?
Well, so in time,
Yeah.
yeah, in timing wise, we're doing this actually the Thursday after Public Power Week so that we can use the Harvest Fest. Will be on the Showboat, thanks to the partnership with the Showboat Committee. And we'll be promoting it there as well. And then interestingly enough, we thought we checked every other event. The chamber is actually having their girls' night out that night. But the chamber is going to make that one of their stops for girls' night out, and we're going to be incorporated into that as well. So that could be interesting. I know they have a good time with that. So it'll be fun. We welcome everybody, and it should be a good time. But yes, please, if you can attend, please do. And
Remove all high heels at the gate.
yeah, yeah. No broken ankles here, please. Great. Well, thank you for that update, Megan. And with that, you can continue to carry it away.
That's the end of it, so.
All right. Any other questions on any of the department reports? All right, that leaves me, and I've never gone quick. No, I don't have much to add. You'll notice in the MPPA, some things actually have changed. Again, timing wise, I mentioned the White Ox deal here and potentially coming in the October board meeting. That timeline was shifted. I do want to bring attention to the Arch Solar project though. And MPPA actually pulled an action item off of their agenda list last week for the Arch Solar deal, but MPPA is in talks with North Star, the developer of that project, for another contract purchase power agreement amendment. It's kind of a tough pill to swallow, but at the same time, it's not uncommon. It's just I think people are getting a little fatigued by all the contract amendments. Again, I've seen the terms of the amendment, and the price is going to go up pretty in line with, I believe it's low 60s. It's going to go up, and there's some other concessions that the developers made that are advantageous, but it's another amendment that'll be coming to the board. We'll discuss it in more detail in the next couple months. But we anticipate MPPA executing that amendment at the Board of Commissioners level next month, and then just depending on timing of our meeting and when all the forms and paperwork get out to every member, whenever we have that paperwork, it'll come to the next Lowell Light and Power meeting. MMEA, we are gearing up for the MMEA Fall Conference, first week of October. That large contingency from White and Power is going to be at the conference. It'll be over in Port Huron. Zach's first time joining us at the MMEA Fall Conference, and following the Fall Conference will be our fall general membership meeting at MMEA, and that is when new officers are elected, and barring any changes or unforeseen circumstances, I anticipate being named the president of MMEA for a 2-year term in early October. With that, I also have an update on our S&P surveillance review. Since writing this, we've received word that we will be retaining our A rating with a stable outlook, which is a testament to our organization, because S&P as a rating agency has downgraded the sector outlook to negative for public power. And it's not a reflection necessarily of public power. It's a reflection of increase in consumer debt aging, other inflationary pressures. There's a lot of fear at S&P that a deteriorating economy will ultimately negatively impact public power utilities. So I was happy, did not have any concerns, but I was happy. It's always nice to get beyond the surveillance review and know that the rating stays the same. Again, there's going to be very little opportunity for an improvement in our rating, but there's absolutely opportunities for a downgrade in our rating. So we will continue to focus on making sure we stay sound, in a sound position for future surveillance reviews as well. I mentioned already that the working capital was being included in our PCA calculation. And then the only other thing I want to mention is Jeremy celebrated his 4th work anniversary, and Jeremy's been a great addition. So I want to thank him for his contributions to Lowell and Power. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but that's the manager's report.
I want to mention, and the folks from Middle Rural were very impressed with the tour that you guys have provided Casey to. It's kind of cool, the fake start and the turbines, what you call that.
Yeah, that's great.
Test, yeah, whatever. it is. Impressed with that part. So thank you guys for.
Yeah, it was a lot. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, and then the last we have is pictures. If you'll zoom out just a little bit, I always love. I think it's important. This one on the top right was a follow up, unsolicited after the storm. Thought it was cool, very cool. The community chatter shout out to Lowell Light and Power for giving the kid the "If I Were a Line Worker" book. I think it's awesome. I think that picture of Rally on top of the pole is going to make an appearance a few more places. People seem to really enjoy that picture. And then the pink arrow banner stuff's always awesome. They get up early in the morning and knock that out. Town looks great.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Town looks great. We had another big birthday with Hillary. So I had a nice little birthday celebration with her. Oh yeah, and that picture was Casey. We're making progress on getting the mini split connected to the IT room upstairs and updating that. So that's moving along nicely. And then the energy saving trees, that giveaway was last Saturday. Thank you, Zach, for attending. Zach Rowley, Steve Shade, and Lisa. The 5 of us came in on Saturday and handed out about 100 trees. Well, about 92, I think. Yeah. Of course, as always, there'll be more pictures, but next month, trees went through sunroofs again this year. The most expensive car that came through, a tree went through the sunroof. So that'll be the picture, I'm sure. And then, yeah, our road cleanup stuff. Megan did mention in her report, the customer survey, satisfaction survey has that survey's been closed out, and we are anticipating a favorable outcome. But we will withhold any announcements until after APPA announces all of the award winners at the Customer Connections Conference. But I think I'm hoping that favorable outcomes.
Did we have more people do the survey this year, or?
We had slightly less. I don't remember what the final count was, about 20 less, I think, maybe. I think last year we ended up with just under 200 survey responses. And this year it was like 180, 190, I think. So we don't quite have final numbers because we do something a little unique where we also print out paper copies, and we have them set up a secondary website. The primary website, they scrub IP addresses and delete all duplicate surveys. We have them set up a separate identical site where we can enter in all those paper surveys ourselves without them scrubbing the IP address there. So I don't know what those final counts will be yet.
Okay, with that, the next regular Lowell Light and Power board meeting will be October 15th. Board comment, Andrew.
First, sorry for being late, but trying to make it back for my son's cross country race up in Cedar Springs. So that's been fun.
Family first. Family first.
Yeah.
That's a new sport, isn't it? I don't think I've ever heard you talk
That's
about.
the first time. Yeah, he decided. I mean, I did that in high school, but I didn't tell
You
him.
didn't push him, right?
No. And then he just said, I think I want to run cross country. So, all right,
Cool.
maybe it's for a girl. I don't know.
It wouldn't be the first time somebody did something for a motivation like that.
But I also just wanted to note that so robotics for the middle school has also started up. So we were in that space and using it twice a week. High school team is also in there once a week for competition or something they've got going It's early, so getting a lot of use. Last time we were there, it's like, do you see any trees? Ignore them, please. There's some trees in the corner. I figured if they were fine. Well, yeah, so far it's been, again, it's just nice to have a spot where we can just go sit, and there's tables, there's floor, just all kinds of stuff we can go work on. So it's definitely appreciate having access to that space.
Fantastic. And it's been great having the robotics team. Been fun. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Tim,
I got a couple things. I had a young gentleman coming around through my neighborhood trying to sell me on solar. I don't know if anybody else got a nice visitor to come into their house as well, giving a spiel that you can put the sign, you get these huge tax credit, you can sell it back to your local authority. I think I shocked him a little bit because I happened to had my low light and power vest on that night. And he stumbled and went through it. And so just, I don't know where that goes. I said, if I needed that, I'd contact Charlie out here first before I'd even consider putting it on there. What does that look like? The other thing I noticed a couple weeks ago, consumers was talking about tree trimming. They have to do between 7,000 and 8,000 miles worth of tree trimming. Does that sound like a lot compared to what we do? Yes. How they do it over time, I have no idea on that part of it. So I thought that was kind of unique that they gonna start that project or do more tree trimming. I don't know if you heard about that or not, but.
I'll share some thoughts with you after the meeting.
Okay. On that, yeah. Yep. So, about, if I remember, I'll come around.
Okay.
I'm 70 something else, so it's three things I need to write them down.
Two, you're good?
Two of them.
Daniel.
Oh, nothing this month.
oh,
Sorry.
Congratulations to Jeremy for 4 years. Also, thank you to the line crews for, making the town look good for Pink Arrow. And also, a big thank you, because I'm also a Rotary member, in assisting with Creekside Kingdom. Thank you, Charlie, for making sure Light and Power is involved in that, and, having them, head up what we need to do.
Well, just say that the digging out there did not win me any friends.
Yeah, I talked to, the guy that came in from Florida, the head guy. and
All
he was
weathers.
Yeah, and he, I just talked to him before I came here, and he was talking about how, the soil has to be a certain density if you can ball it up and it stays together or something, and it's not that right now. So something's gonna happen. But anyway, yeah, thank you again for doing everything you guys do to pull that together. And that's about all I can think of at this juncture.
Okay, well, I got a whole list of things. So, and I'll start off with the linemen. I appreciate them so I appreciate the whole company with the Pink Arrow. It was the 17th year. It goes off with the help of Lowell Light and Power. It goes off without a hitch. And we get up early, and I help with where the banners go, and they go down and they put them up. And I'm telling you, this happens every year. As soon as the banner goes up, somebody goes, "Oh, I forgot to put," and so I get 3 or 4 that I got to come back down, drop off to the line crew, and I'm sure it's a pain in the neck, but they gladly go and put them up. Occasionally, because we put them up a little bit different than some of the other signs that go up, we zip tie them and different things that a zip tie breaks or whatever, and I notice it or they notice it, and they're right out there fixing those. And so it's not just a one-time thing. They keep track of it. And when it comes to like the linemen, digging the holes, you jokingly, I think, say that you probably didn't win a lot of friends. But when they're done, they're really proud of what they accomplished for the community with that. Because I know it's a different group, but I was actively involved in the first one, and Low Light and Power did that, and I can tell you, and going, it's one huge bunch of rocks and et cetera. But again, you might get one of those, yeah, I wish I was fishing, or I wish I was something else. But when they're all done, their chest sticks out a little bit further. GR Press, I read the GR Press this weekend about consumers and about the amount of with power outages, how many millions of dollars that they have to reimburse their customers. And again, if you read that article, we don't have those outages. And so, I mean, it was a staggering amount. And I think they were looking, I think the article was they're looking to have the government help them and raise their rates and everything because of the amount of money that they have to pay out. So it was an interesting article. Signage, and we've talked about it, but I'd really love to see the group robotics team have a sign made that we can put on over the door on the building. I mean, I'm not talking about a spray paint on a piece of plywood, but have a nice decorative sign that I would really love to see it saying, the home of Lowell Robotics, and have that mounted on the building right there. We've talked about it, but I think it's something that I'd love to see it done. I don't think it's probably our responsibility because I think they should figure out what they want to do. Give a draft to Charlie and have him go, yeah, it looks great. Let's move forward with that. But I'd really like to see some recognition on the outside of the building so people could, oh, that's where the robotics team is. And again, it kind of thanks Lowell Light and Power for our participation in that. Pink Arrow was this last week. Wednesday night, we did it into a 3-night, but I'm going to actually say that it's a 4-night deal. The soccer played in the stadium, in their stadium, on Wednesday night. The volleyball, we set up the court in the soccer stadium, and they played under the lights. It was a really neat event. And then the football game was Friday, and had a great turnout. Lowell lost, but again, as you get older, it's for the kids, I'm sure it's devastating, but as you get older, that's not always the most important thing. But it's not over with. This Thursday, the Polo Club out on Meadowview Farms, out on Virgins, is having a polo and pink night, and was out there getting some pink set up today, and it's if you've never been there, it's kind of a neat place, and you'll be able to for a car load, kind of like I think of it as like the drive-in movies. Get as many kids and many people as you can in a car, and it's $30 for a car. Go out, and all donations will be going to Pink Arrow. But the Grand Rapids Polo Club will be having a polo match out there in the grounds. It's, if you haven't been back there or seen it, it's pretty cool. And so you'll be able, and they're having contests for the best deck, best tailgate. Gates will open at 5. The event will start at 6. Run from, well, there's no light, so 6 till dusk. And would love to see people out there attending that. Also, public service announcement, the city tomorrow night is having their, another, meeting for the 425 agreement at City Hall at 6 o'clock. I encourage everybody to attend. And again, I guess I have a couple other things, but those really aren't pertaining to Lowell Light and Power. So, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Supported, and any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Meeting is adjourned.